and welcome to Training Tuesday, where we go through weekly tips and tricks to make your career just a little bit more awesome. This week, we are talking about the topic of morning routines. Now, when I work with clients, we cover a lot of ground. We have a lot of different things we go into. But one of the things that many new clients start doing is either implementing or adjusting a morning routine. And this is something that I hear is transformational from a lot of clients, which is why I wanted to talk about it this week. In fact, even just last week, I was on a wrap-up call with a client of mine who was talking about, all of the exercises we've done and reflecting back, and she said, being able to get clear on some of the bigger things we do, mindset, purpose statement, working on that checklist for her job. She was saying all of these larger exercises were really impactful. And then she shared, and you know what, one of the smallest things that has made, I think, the biggest difference is just the impact of starting a morning routine. And she shared with me that that's been really transformational in terms of setting her up and getting her on the right foot every day, allowing her to go into work with a better attitude. And so I think it's really important to talk about today, because with that in mind, right, so many people in this world talk about morning routines. We hear about it all the time. And in the development space, there are a lot of rules for what you ought to be doing in the morning, right? Some people swear by doing an ice bath first thing. Some people say they like to go on a run. Some people like to have time for meditation. Some people do journaling. Some people do whatever, right? There's a million different ways you can start your day. And there are also a million different articles from self-help gurus about the definitive guide to the morning routine that's right. What I would say here is that a lot of people feel really intimidated by morning routines for that reason, right? They feel like there's a right way to do it, and it feels really scary. It feels like, how am I going to know what's the right thing for me? Plus, it can feel scary because how am I going to have the time to do that? How am I going to be able to remember to do that? How is this going to work in my real life? Because we're real people. And that's why I wanted to talk about this week, because ultimately morning routines, I would argue, are great, but they also don't have to look a certain way for any single person. Just because, a certain coach that you follow or someone you follow does it a certain way, doesn't mean you have to do it that way. And what we're talking about this week is really a personally curated morning routine that works for you, because that's who we care about at the end of the day. Not following the rules, but doing what works in a realistic, doable, lifelike way, because we're real people, right? And so ultimately, I want you to think about, with that in mind, what's going to work for you when it comes to the morning routine. So I have 3 tips I wanted to share so that we can start to get you into a morning routine that actually is adding to your day, getting you off on the right foot, but feeling very manageable and not scary, because it doesn't have to be scary, okay? So my 3 tips for you this week for implementing a really powerful and customized morning routine is 1, get clear on what it is that you actually need, right? So get clear on what it is that you need. Get clear on what it is that actually is going to work for you. So do I want to try doing the ice baths in the morning? Or to me, is it I want to just kind of get in the right headspace for my day. So maybe what that looks like is writing out a list of 3 things I'm grateful for each morning. Maybe what that is writing out how exactly I want to show up that day, right? It doesn't have to be a long thing, but I want you to think about, what is it that I'm actually trying to get out of this morning routine? And if that's what I'm trying to get out of this morning routine, then what does it need to look like in order for me to get that? If that makes sense, right? We're kind of doing some backwards math to back into it. So I want you to think, what kind of things do I actually need out of this routine? What am I hoping for out of it? And what would I need to be doing to get that? And you can always do, right, the test and learn approach of, maybe I'll try these ice baths for a week and see if it's additive. And if not, then I'll cut them. Maybe I'll try meditation and see if it works for me. But with any of these things, you can play around with it. But I want that to be your first step, is get clear on what I actually need to fit into the routine. Second tip, keep it short, right? So keep it as short as possible. For some people, they like to allow a whole half hour. For some people, it can be 5 minutes. And I want you to know that it can look like that 5-minute thing, because I know this can feel daunting and it can feel scary and it can feel overwhelming, but it doesn't have to be. So get clear on what it is that you actually need to include. Keep it as short as possible, knowing that you can always add time. And then 3, have a low barrier to entry. So think about what's kind of the easiest way that I can start to implement this new routine. Truth is, when you're implementing any new routine, it can feel hard to do for the first few times. So think about how you can make it as easy as possible. So if you are going to start journaling, maybe you keep the journal on top of your cell phone at night. I would always recommend that, because then in the morning when your alarm goes off, you can grab it and do your work right then, instead of accidentally going onto your phone and doing the hour-long scroll on Instagram or whatever that might be. Right? So think about ways that you can make it as easy as possible. So those are my 3 tips for you today. Get clear on what you actually need, keep it short, and then make it as easy as possible to implement. So go forth this week and start planning your perfect morning routine. And if you are able to share what kind of things that you do in your morning routine, we would love to hear it. And I know you would be inspiring to other people who are looking to implement their own. So please do share with us, okay? But start there, and in the meantime, happy working.